Okay, welcome back. In today's topic, we're going to be talking about AEW's content. AEW puts too many eggs in one basket while the basket has holes, and that's why I feel like Collision's going to be a mistake. Something got to go. AEW should be taking advantage. I agree myself with Kevin Nash because there was an issue over on Wrestling Inc. going over Kevin Nash that, like it or not, over he has withstandable critiques over the business for how long he's been over in the boom period of pro wrestling. He has tenure, he has experience, and he's been a major draw whether you like it or not. Kevin Nash's opinion matters over the span of actually trying to bring consistency in ring wise, or at least try to build over your motif. In AEW should be building around house shows, trying to localize themselves rather than give exclusivity over contracts when you're trying to perform over the big cam, because they got guys that they're pushing that are not that impressive in ring, and even if they are, they're not given enough ring time to actually build each other up. So anytime you see a guy actually given a storyline over on the regular show, then he bombs in the main show, like Bandito, or you've seen that with Jade Cargill. Like, Jade Cargill, undefeated, looked like a brick house, and yet she doesn't have the most impressive matches on the show or the most eye-catching, even though they try to give her an unbeaten streak with the secondary women's championship. And apparently, it's just not working out. Using house shows is enough to make sure there's a bit more formulaic wrestling, just for the consistency wise, and to make sure there's less risk of injury. That's why WWE does it, for the aesthetic, to try to just make sure that the wrestlers are in green. Because they're either not built up for TV time, they're not giving up that much of eye-catching matches, and they're just not used to one another whenever they wrestle each other over on a consistent basis. Thinks they have to do this now on Dark, Elevation, Dynamite, Rampage, Collision now. Seriously, what's next? Antichrist? Explain to me that. AEW is not doing enough to make sure that the wrestlers are built up to succeed, and they have so many under the umbrella that just don't either have enough screen time, just can't do enough to get screen time, and they just can't spread around the name over AEW. I know Collision is possibly not going to get less than Rampage, even though they're in the least shown day of the week. In the airing over in the summer, their only drawing effect literally is just CM Punk. Over the standard that nobody else could actually push over promos like CM Punk. Sadly. So, that's the essence of what they're trying to produce, content-wise, here for AEW. Kevin Nash made a gracious point over AEW's house show model, and think that they're taking too many high risks. Literally doing topes, too many chops. They're not regulating, making simplistic storyline matches, and they're too estimated over making so many high risks. And it's just, they need to learn they have to learn quality over quantity. They're adding too many shows, and they're already having that low risk of talent. And even if they are, they're not ready for prime time. And then they got to switch it all over and then sign more talent. Tony Khan is bleeding money. Sure, I'm sure the Turner Network's getting the estimated amount of consistent viewers, because other than TNT, they just share out like crappy old movies. Nobody watches the Mayans, whatever Snowpiercer is, or whatever movie they want to play back that's literally coming months out of the theater. Like, come on. The AEW never airs a localized house show, so they're not even getting wide-spoken enough to try to tour around with the already minimum amount of talent that they have that already could be recognizable. And why the veterans are not trying to speak this out, it tells me how much of an echo chamber it's either Tony Khan's not letting up a lot of opinions over by the locker room, or at least by the vets that actually know the business decades more than some millionaire mark. And it's just not helping. Like, literally, over this comment that Nash made, one point of contention Nash raises about the current house show model is it doesn't allow a lot of talent to improve when looking at advertisements for them, or you'll notice just everyone they can possibly cram on the poster. The whole thing of each one of these people are gonna go on one show. He continued. They'll get a house show in, hopefully, with the person that they're gonna work on with against on TV, and they can run through it. It is what it is. With the model as AEW house shows aren't too regular of a thing, but they are not going to help the talent improve in the ring through events like this. He'd like to see them set up a training facility and multiple literally we discussed this on the channel. Even people that are guests here, we discussed this in the channel. Even other podcasts have issued that AEW needs a training facility. Rehearsals a must. You know why? Because wrestling is a performance. You need to make sure that these guys push this. Not always on the fly. Thanks are doing topes. Most are doing stiff moves. High risk spots where they're possibly going to be on a ladder or the top rope. And most of that shit comes to trial and error. Nobody wants to end up like Jeff Hardy or shout outs to Jesse Sorson if anybody's a TNA fan like that. Most of this shit ends over in trial and error. Tony Khan can facilitate a gym requirement or at least a training facility that needs to be built over some part of Jacksonville to make sure guys that are not that experienced over in the business, or at least in the way the TV world of pro wrestling, to learn their shit so they don't end up like who? Darius Martin or Dante Martin that got their leg effed up on a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. They need to work their shit. Please, make a training facility. Kevin Nash made another great point. So, over most of these thoughts over Kevin Nash, he was totally right. Like the consistency over what's going on with the content-wise with AEW, how they're not letting out a lot of more improvements for the roster if they can't get over in ring-wise. And like no practice facility or training regimen or at least rehearsal or more house shows to at least build up more of their wrestling. And just not spreading out, but they'll make more TV shows. When already like they get the bare minimum of 800,000 every week, and TNT's just tolerant of that, so they can just have some exclusive TV network that they can air off. It's agitating. So that's my thought. That's my opinion on it. Shout out to Kevin Nash. The guy doesn't miss. And that's it for me. Oh, I think Nash also has a podcast, so shout out to that. This is DHT Show. Like, comment, subscribe for more. That's it for me. I'm going to take my Tylenol.